The Book of Enoch wasn't always the same. There are layers that have been added to it over time. I'll be taking a look at those layers and explaining what the layers were and what they were trying to achieve. There are actually 3 books of Enoch, the earliest of those being 1st Enoch. 1st Enoch itself is composed of 5 books. The first one, and the one we'll be looking at in this video, is called the Book of the Watchers. This seems to be the most interesting book in 1st Enoch to many people, and I would agree. It tells the story of how divine beings made it with human women, among other things. Here are the sources and redactional layers that I've been able to derive from the text. The white box is the oral tradition of the Watchers, which itself may have been based on an actual petition of some sort. Interestingly, the tradition of the Watchers and the earliest text about Enoch were originally 2 separate traditions. It's not until an author, shown in lavender here, brought them together. Then another author, shown in light green, took that narrative and supplemented his own material. That author also integrates an earlier source that was a poem that references the eternal God. Finally, an even later author in orange builds onto that narrative and adds in a text about Enoch's journey to the ends of the earth, but then reinterprets the meaning of that journey. Let's do a brief overview of the source that combined the Watchers and the journey of Enoch. In this layer, there is an emphasis on the Watchers being in heaven. This typically indicates that they were not in heaven in the oral tradition. Similarly, there is an emphasis that what Enoch experiences is a vision, and not an actual experience. Again, this indicates that it was not a vision in the original text. This layer also talks about how the angel named Semjaza formed a pact with 200 of his colleagues to mate with human women. In response, the angels of Michael and Gabriel are dispatched to deal with the results. Furthermore, since the oral tradition of the Watchers seems to have been based on an actual petition, Enoch is made into a scribe so that he can be the one to write it. Let's take a look at how the next author adds to the narrative. This layer extends God's judgment beyond the Watchers to all humans, but excludes those who are righteous and the elect from punishment. Not surprisingly, Enoch is made out to be righteous. This is the layer that adds in how the Watchers shared forbidden secrets with human women, as well as adding in the Watcher named Azazel as the main culprit. The angel named Raphael is also added to deal with Azazel. Finally, this layer adds a poem about the powerful eternal God, but makes some additions to it about the judgment and the elect. Next, we have the final layer, which builds on the previous narratives, but like the lavender layer, integrates the narrative of Enoch's journey to the ends of the earth and turns it into a vision, but then reinterprets the meaning of that journey. This layer also integrates elements from the biblical narrative, such as Cain, Noah, and Sinai. There is also a frequent mention about stars and other astronomical/astrological elements. He also adds the angel named Uriel to warn Noah, among other things. It's important to remember that the Book of the Watchers, as well as all of 1st Enoch, was written as propaganda. The text was not meant to share neat stories, but to push an agenda. Because of this, the introduction in a text is a good place to see all of the layers at play as each author tries to set the tone for the rest of the narrative. Here we have the first paragraph of the Book of the Watchers. I'm using the translation by R.H. Charles, which, after using it, doesn't seem to be the greatest translation, but here we are. The first layer, in lavender, says, Enoch, whose eyes were opened by God, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens. This is the layer that combined the oral traditions of the Watchers and the journey of Enoch, as well as emphasize that it was a vision that Enoch had, which we see mentioned here. The second layer, in green, is the layer that deals with the elect and judgment for all, and you can see many of the words here that are typically associated with that layer, such as the elect, tribulation, wicked, and godless. There is also an effort to make Enoch's vision into a parable, although that word translated as parable is somewhat controversial. In Nicholsburg commentary on 1st Enoch, he translated it as discourse instead. The final layer, in orange, the author tells us that it is the angels that help Enoch understand the vision. The use of angels to do this is a propaganda device, allowing the author to change the meaning of the vision to fit his agenda. If we move on to the next section, we can see that the elect and judgment for all layer integrates in the eternal poem or hymn. I'm not completely opposed to the poem being original to the green layer, but I'll go through and explain why I don't think it is. You can see this poem layer highlighted as red. Originally, the poem was as follows. The eternal God will tread upon the earth, and appear in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens, and all shall be smitten with fear, and trembling shall seize them, and the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be made low, and the earth shall be wholly rent in sunder, and all that is upon the earth shall perish. You can see here that every 2 lines is a parallelism, Overall, it uses similar language to the older poems and hymns that I've found in the Bible. The elect and judgment layer for all layer in green adds in a bit about the watchers to tie it in with the existing narrative. The line with melting by fire, I've also attributed to this layer since it is associated with judgment by fire. Then, at the end of the poem, it suddenly switches to excluding the elect from punishment, and using words typically associated with the green layer, such as righteous, peace, the elect, and ungodly. If we head back to the top of the poem, we can see the reinterpretation of Enoch's journey layer in orange. This layer is the only one that uses the term Holy Great One for God and integrates bits from the Bible into the narrative. In this case, it mentions Sinai. In future videos, I'll explain the layers in more detail, but for now, I'll provide a link in the description to the text that shows my source attributions. It's still a work in progress and is subject to change. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, no pun intended. And please like, share, and subscribe.